All right, guys, I'm going to make a quick video just going over some of the homework problems. So here we are trying to isolate V. So our first step, whenever we have distribution, is to remember that it's multiplication and actually get rid of the multiplication that's happening. So I'm going to get rid of this S to be left with what's inside of the parentheses by dividing both sides by S. That's going to be our first step anytime we have distribution, unless there's a fraction. If there's a fraction, always get rid of that first. And so that cancels, and I'm left with T minus V equals 2W divided by S. So I'm trying to isolate V, so I do need to get rid of this T. To get rid of T, we subtract T because T minus T cancels. I'm left with negative V on this side. Don't drop that negative. Now, these aren't like terms, so even though this looks kind of messy, I'm literally going to write 2W over S minus T. Now, the problem is I want positive V. So I'm going to basically just change the sign of everything in this entire equation. So I'm going to make this positive, I'm going to make this term negative, and I'm going to make this term positive so that I get V equals negative 2W over S plus T. So if you're left with a negative in front, all you have to do is go to every single term and change its sign, and that'll take care of the negative, turning it to a positive. All right, so here I have a fraction. The very first thing I would like to do is clear that fraction. So to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. Now, this whole thing is actually a single term because it's all multiplication, no addition. So all I have to do is multiply this by 7, and that actually takes care of it. I don't want to multiply the r squared and the h by 7 because then that would be a double, triple multiplication. So 7 divided by 7 is 1, so that denominator's gone. And now I'm left with 7v equals 22 r squared h. So to isolate h, all I have to do now is divide, because h is being multiplied by 22 and r squared. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 22 r squared. That cancels, isolating h. And so I get h is 7v divided by 22 r squared. That's my final answer. All right, one of the problems we have to solve for a. The problem is a is in two terms. I cannot solve for a variable when it's in two terms. So what I want to do is I want to do reverse distribution, which we call factoring. That's a word you just want to kind of glue into your brain because we are going to use it a lot in the second half of the year. So factoring is when I take a term or a factor out of both terms. So this has an A, this has an A. So I'm going to factor it out, and I'm left with 2 minus 5b. Because I could get back to where I was if I wanted to work backwards by distributing A. A times 2 is 2A. A times 5b is 5ab. But I like this because now to isolate A, all I have to do is remember my parenthesis trick that this is multiplication. I'm going to divide by 2 minus 5b because that whole thing is multiplying by A. That gets rid of it on this side. A is isolated, and A is T minus 2 over 2 minus 5b. This one's very important. It may or may not, or definitely will, show up on a quiz. All right, this last one's definitely the most challenging one on here. So first of all, I've got a denominator, so I want to multiply both sides by my denominator because that's going to clear my fraction. So multiplying by the denominator clears out the fraction. So now I have m times x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1. Okay, same thing here. I have a parenthesis, so I'm going to get rid of it by dividing. I want what's inside the parentheses, so I divide by what's outside the parentheses. That's as opposed to this last one, where I wanted what was outside the parentheses, so I divided by the parentheses. So it depends what you want. I want what's inside, so I divide by what's on the outside. All right, gonna need some more space for this one. So the m is gone. Now I have x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1 over m. And then I'm going to subtract x2 from both sides. That leaves me with negative x1 equals y2 minus y1 over m minus x2. And again, I want positive, so I'm going to change the sign there, make it positive. This whole fraction is one term, so all I have to do is put a negative in front of it. And then this last term is going to turn to a plus. So my final answer, and if you got this, you're a rock star, is x1 equals negative y2 minus y1 over m plus x2. Whew.